You have legal questions. Amy the attorney has the answers. Welcome to today's show. And here's Amy.
All right, so let's talk about the user and the process. You said the applications begin July 4th. Where do they apply?
So they apply online through the Department of Health and Senior Services website. So if you Google Missouri DHSS medical marijuana, you can't miss it. It'll take you right there. On the top right-hand side of the webpage, they're going to have a drop-down menu where you could choose, for facilities, for patients, whatever. You're going to go to that patient button and you're going to click it, and the application's right there. You can actually look at the application now and even print it off and fill it out so that when you go to apply online, you'll have all of your information already there. Things that patients need to realize that they need to have: number one, that doctor certification that's less than 30 days old. Number two, they need to have a $25 application fee ready to go, a copy of their driver's license or state-issued ID, and also something akin to a passport photo that is less than 3 months old. So they need to turn all of those things in and be able to apply that way. If they want to grow their own, there's a special section on the application where they have to explain to the department where they're planning on growing it and how they plan to maintain the security of that area so only the patient can have access to that area or their caregiver.
Okay. All right, let's backtrack. So online is going to be the only place that you can apply.
Correct. Unless online shuts down, then the department is going to notify people through their website of alternative means of application.
Okay, good. All right, so let's talk about the grow. You growing your own. You talked about it a little bit in the previous two segments, but I want to nail it down. What are the costs involved, and are they doing this in their basement? What is happening? What would give me the whole deal on growing your own?
So a patient can grow up to 6 flowering plants, I should say, at one time. You can have what they call teenage plants that are under 14 inches tall. You can have clones, but you can only have 6 actual flowering plants. For people who don't understand how grows work, flowering depends on deprivation of light. So in a controlled environment for an indoor grow, most of the time when you're getting the plants started early on, in the clone stage or even the teenage stage, they might get 18 to 24 hours of light a day. But then when you want them to start flowering, you back that off to 12 and 12. And so they get 12 hours of light, 12 hours of dark, they start flowering. So at that point, the patient can add an extra $100 to their application to apply for a home grow. You know what? If you've got a closet at home, you can actually grow in your closet as long as you're able to lock it and no one else is going to be able to get into it. But you just basically have to have a secure location, whether it's in your basement, whether it's a closet, whether it's a spare bedroom. I even have some clients that are talking about basically creating a facility where there's different rooms or different pods that they can lease to patients and caregivers to grow their own. So that's also going to be an option. If you want to do an outdoor grow, there has to be a screen over the top so you cannot access it from the top. There has to be slats so that you can't necessarily see what's in there. And of course, it has to be locked. So it's not like you're trying to keep the squirrels out of your garden. You're trying to keep everyone out of your garden. And I think it's going to be a lot more difficult to control your growing conditions in that kind of an environment. But Missouri has is one of 3 states in the country with some of the best soil for cannabis cultivation. The other is Oregon and I believe North or South Carolina. So, we do have good growing conditions here, but for the patient, the cost is going to be lower to grow outside potentially because you're not going to have the electricity suck that you're going to have with the lighting situation that I just told you about. But the other issue is that you may not be able to have as consistent of a supply depending on what your needs are. And we can get into quantities if you want, but at the end of the day, the only way that you're really going to be able to, as a patient, the standard is 4 ounces of dried flower per 30-day period or its equivalent. And don't ask me for the equivalent off the top of my head because I'm really bad at math. And you're not going to be allowed to use combustible extraction methods in your home. So if you do want an extract, my best advice to patients is just once it becomes available, go to a dispensary and buy your dabs.
Okay.
Try to make them at home.
So under the new law, it's not just the smokable marijuana that we're talking about. It is all the different products. I've been to Colorado. So, what about the doctors? Like, I know that there are specific clinics in Kansas City that are going to start seeing patients to get the license. Mm-hmm. Is that going to be the trend? Or I will say I asked my doctor in January after it had passed, and she was like, I don't feel comfortable doing it. I'm not going to do it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if she has changed her mind, but will be the trend be a specific doctor that pretty much sees the patients that need this? Or do you feel like it will expand to general practitioners, somebody's doctor?
I'm not sure how to answer that question either because right now, the trend is to have places like the green clinics, which, by the way, I highly recommend. Excellent organization or, business, company, whatever you want to call it, franchise. They are incredible. And what happens is you take your medical records from your treating physician who has already diagnosed you, and you go to a doctor that understands cannabis, is knowledgeable about it, is not afraid of it, won't fearmonger it, won't make you feel like a criminal for going in there. They review your medical records. They give you an evaluation based on those medical records and say, yeah, I can check the box for migraines. So a couple things about that. Thing number one is you can get a medical card from another state. For instance, California doesn't have a residency requirement. And say you have a medical card from California, you're in Missouri, and you have less than your 4 allotted ounces on you, you're immune from prosecution, period. But you're not going to be able to probably buy it in a dispensary, which is another odd constitutional argument where you're given an immunity from prosecution, but not the privilege of buying it. So does full faith and credit really exist? Medical tourism has become big in the states that do allow reciprocity, like Nevada. But then, you've got this other issue too of, will these doctors start to come online? And part of that is actually a cost issue for them. I saw one doctor in one of the groups that I belong to and get my information from. Her insurance premiums went up $1,000 a month just for recommending medical cannabis. Do they go up $1,000 a month for recommending fentanyl? I mean, I don't know, but it might be an economic thing for some of these doctors. I think, again, it goes back to the education thing. If we can get out there and start educating people and getting rid of the fake news that was done by Reefer Madness, then maybe, we'll see these insurance rates drop. It becomes more economically feasible for these doctors to do this. Also, as lawyers, Amendment 2 protects professionals. It protects CPAs, it protects, lawyers, it protects doctors from, working legally in this industry on a state level. But one thing that hasn't happened yet is that our Office of Chief Disciplinary Counsel has not yet come out like they have in Colorado and said, if you're a lawyer and you're a patient, we'll protect you. They haven't done that yet. And so, there's some of us that are eagerly waiting for that decision and wondering if our ethics council is even going to touch it at all. So, and I think there's probably something going on with doctors in that realm too. There's a lot of fear for professionals.